Ma Ra Na Ta Ma Ra Na Ta Ma Ra Na Ta Ma Ra Na Ta. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Hello, dear ones. And this is how to practice with mantra and how to practice japa yoga. And so we'll explore the ways of practicing here. So let's talk about mantra first. Mantra is a mentation. It's a vibration. We explored that in the first session. It's a vibration. It's a particular type of vibration which has a specific purpose. And if we'll remember, the purpose of this specific vibration, which we call yoga mantra, the purpose of it is to free the mind of its obsessions, the vrittis, to extract the vrittis or the whirlpools or that which is causing me to lose myself from the mind, to draw these out or to end them like this. And so it is a mentation, meaning how do I practice a mantra? I repeat it. And I repeat it in the mind and of course out loud and in other ways we'll explore. This relates to japa. But this mentation, this way of utilizing the mind is different. It's completely different. In some of the traditions, mind, normal mind, is called conceptual mind. And it's called this because my mind, in normal, quote unquote, normal life, what people call real life, which is not really, not the ideal state. And so in my life, in the past, my mind gave me a narrative about everything. So I would look, and I had no idea that it was a narrative. I accepted it as the truth. I would look at an object and the mind would say, tree. I would look at a person and the mind would say, pretty, ugly, young, old, man, woman, like this. And so it's a narrative. And I'd be in a situation and the mind would say it's good or pleasant or a variation on the theme. I like this. I don't like this. So bad. Yeah? So concepts about my experience of life. And this is why it's called often the conceptual mind. I'm always dealing with concepts. I'm involved in machinations, thoughts about things. Not actually the things. I suppose this is why it's advised to hug a tree. Is to have some more direct relationship with the thing instead of just subscribing to the narrative about the thing. So in this case, mantra is different. It's completely different because mantra is the thing. The mantra is the thing. The vibration is the thing. It's not a concept about a thing. And of course, often we'll introduce mantras to dear souls, and the first question the mind will ask is, what does that mean? And we will smile with deep love and say, well, the meaning is in the vibration. Chant it, and you will see what it means. Mind is looking for a translation, some concept about it. And so here we are talking about mantras, but the mantra is beyond concept. And since I can practice it, that means that I can bring this repetition of this mantra. I can repeat in the mind, Om Namah Shivaya. And now it's not a concept.
Mm-hmm.
I am bringing the vibration directly into the mind. And so that's the first part of practicing with it. It's so simple. It can't be any simpler. Just repeat it. That's the practice of mantra. Now there's a little more to japa, and we'll discuss this. We had shared in an earlier discussion that japa is the repetition. There are different ways of working with mantra. One more common way in the West would be sankirtan, singing mantras. And in fact, in all the wisdom traditions are these songs, some of which are quite repetitive, and they're the singing of these mantras or these vibrations. And japa is simply repeating them. And it can be repeated and is to be repeated in practice in different ways. We can say like this, it can be repeated out loud. So I can take a mala and repeat mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya, multiple times out loud. Here, let's take a moment. We've been doing it at the beginning. So, Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya. Like this.
Om Namo
Thank you. Thank you. We don't want to stop in the middle of it. Thank you. So this is one way to practice out loud. Second is whispering. And whispering could be said to be superior in a way, and we'll discuss briefly why. So I can whisper the mantra. Namo Narayanaya. If you can hear it, Om Namo Narayanaya. So like this, and then mental repetition, repeating it in the mind. And you won't hear this, but you'll hear it when you do it. Turns out this is what we're hearing all the time.
Never thought about it that way. That makes total sense.
And so, mental repetition is simply this. And this is called also conscious repetition. So I'm consciously repeating it in the mind. And when I'm consciously repeating it out loud, whispering it, or mentally repeating it, and the fourth, in terms of a conscious practice, is Likita Japa, or writing mantra. Hari, maybe you could talk a little bit about how we would write a mantra.
Yes. So this practice, obviously to writing, you require the paper and the pen. We don't recommend to do it on the computer or devices. It's you're connecting more to the mantra in this way. And you would just repeating in the mind at the same time that you're writing. So you will try to keep the concentration in the action. So the hand is also engaged. And basically, it's good because it's a mantra in action. So there is action of the body at the same time. The mind is engaged in this repetition. And you can write the mantra. Sometimes we write it if you're familiar with Sanskrit and you want to find out how to write your mantra in the Devanagari alphabet, you can also write it like that. But it's fine if you write it in English alphabet, it would be okay also.
Oh.
So it's a good practice, and it has many benefits also, same as when you're repeating in your mind.
Thank you, Hari. This is called Likita Japa. So it has a specific name for it. These are the conscious practices, the primary conscious practices, these four. And then there are two more we'll mention. The next one is subconscious repetition. We'll come back to that. And superconscious repetition, which is very interesting. It is said that the primary practice, and this relates to the intention of the mantra and how the mantra works. The primary practice is mental repetition. It's repeating it consciously in the mind. What does that do? There's somebody might have heard of this term, pratipaksha bhavana. Dear Peace Pilgrim would say, if you knew the power of your thoughts, you would never think a negative thought again. Meaning a judgmental thought or hateful thought or greedy thought or self-centered thought like that, judgmental towards others, never beneficial. But it's habitual. It's not that you're bad. These are simply habits. And the mind is spitting out thoughts all of the time. We had mentioned in another video, 75,000 a day, something like this. And these thoughts can be changed. And this is the reason for utilizing a mantra, taking a mantra as a practice. They can be cleaned, they can be purified, they can be beneficial thoughts, thoughts that give us access to wisdom, thoughts that cure, thoughts that heal, not just ourselves, but all others. These mantras are used in prayers, and prayer works. Especially these that are thoughts and speech and action then that are guided towards the benefit of all. And so the mind is the place where everything that's happening is happening first. It all happens first in the mind. Accidental thoughts are killing us. Intentional thoughts, bringing the thoughts that we want to think and ruminate, that we want to utilize for our upliftment and the upliftment of all. These heal us and give us life. Where one seems to take the life out of us, the accidental thoughts, the habitual thoughts that are always arising in circumstances. Nobody starts the day wanting to be angry, but then something happens in the day and what happens? Well, first a thought, which is the seed of anger, arises. And then before I know it, I've lost myself. And so how do I change them? Well, this is the purpose of mantra. So the primary practice is mental repetition, because through mentally repeating the mantra, the old mental masalas, these habitual thoughts, they're rewritten. Like we were discussing here a moment ago, the record player, and record players are obsolete, but they're kind of making a comeback in some. Some of you might have heard, made of vinyl records.
Right, they have a groove in them that go around, and the needle goes into the groove, and that's what plays the music on a record for people who haven't been around them much.
Yeah, and so our mind is likened to this. The thoughts happen to us, and this is a terrible state. We want the thoughts to be intentional. We want them to be uplifting. We want them to be kind, compassionate, loving. We want them to have power for my upliftment and for the upliftment of all. And how do we do it? We cut a new groove. And this is what the mantra and other practices, compassionate practices, meditation practices, etc., are doing, is cutting a new groove. And we want to cut the groove how deep? As deep as we can. What happens? Well, when it's deep enough, it becomes the deepest groove in the mind, which means the underlying tendency of the mind. And this becomes the substratum of the mind. What does that mean? That means, at this point, the tendency towards anger or fear or judgment or wanting somebody as my own, or wanting to do something with somebody, or all of these, test driving a car, test driving a person, these kinds of thoughts are gone. They're washed out. And the base of the mind is clean. Like that. And so the practice has the intention of cutting this groove.
But the mantra can flow through.
That the mantra can flow through. And it will finally flow on its own. And that is what we call ajapa. Japa is the conscious repetition, mentally, whispering, writing, speaking it out loud. The conscious repetition, and then it becomes subconscious, which is, I have a new habit. And the habit, it's not a concept anymore. I have the Om Namah Shivaya habit, or the Jesus Lord Mercy habit, or the Mary habit. Divine habit, divine habit. like this. And so this is where we get to the subconscious repetition, Japa. Everyone wants the mind to be quiet. When we begin to realize it's the mind that's the troublemaker that's making all the noise. I used to tell other people to shut up. Then I told my mind to shut up. And here we get to quiescence. We can't make it shut up just by telling it to shut up, but we can get it to center. And this is the practice. Superconscious is, yes, there is this deepest state where the underlying vibrations of this world are tuned to. It is called sometimes the pregnant void or the universal orchestra. Plato called it the music of the spheres, like this, where we actually experience life in this beautiful way without disturbance. So let's talk a little bit about some practical tips for chanting mantra. We'll say the outer practices, they're very beneficial. What's the purpose of them? To strengthen the mental practice. We're just saying the mental practice is the primary one. It's the one that we're really looking for. And of course, it's great to chant it out loud. There are times when I can't. Let's share a few tips with you, and then I want to share a little bit of guidance about the practice from Anandamayi Ma as well. What tips would we add in terms of developing our practice in the early stages of practicing?
I would say there's certain times that out loud is good. Like, for example, I've noticed there's sometimes the mind, there's too much going on. It's really aggressive in the mind, shouting, and there's a strong emotion coming or something like that. And you cannot really repeat mentally. It shuts off almost instantly. So in those cases, I just sit down and chant it loud.
Yes.
In certain cases, it's been like several rounds. I would chant like even for 1 hour. But then I would notice the benefits. I would notice it dissipates, and then the mind is not thinking about that anymore. It's maybe thinking about something else, but it kind of turn down the volume a couple notches.
Right, you gotta yell it because the thing going on is so loud, so you have to override it with some louder volume.
The volume of the voice in that case.
So you can yell, Ram, 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 save me from myself, Ram, Ram. Exactly.
Yeah, that's really good too. Like if you have some moment where, like you were saying in the previous video, when Gandhi was killed, he said Ram, like there was this intense moment.
Loud, right?
Yeah, and so like, if you have an intense moment in your life, you can just go to chanting mantra.
Oh, very good. As we're starting the practice, here's some advice. And that is, first, recognize that we're cutting a groove, if we can visualize this. And what we're wanting to do is cut the groove deeply enough that it becomes the base, the substratum of this mind. And this is freedom. This is freedom. Mm-hmm. It's freedom from these repetitive thoughts that keep sucking us in. And what does it look like? Paramahansa Yogananda says the yogi, meaning spiritual practitioner or adept, must be still in the midst of crashing worlds. And we look around and we kind of see crashing worlds. So this gets us to the place of non-disturbance so that we can truly be beneficial. Mm-hmm. And so the strength of the practice has an effect. More devotion, more attention, more awareness of the mantra and the repetition of the mantra, better. Less attention, not as good. Mechanical repetition is fine. It still does its thing. It still works. We said each mantra has a formula, 2 or 3 million repetitions, something like that. And what does that mean? Then it moves to Japa. Then one finds substantial peace in one's life. And several other opportunities have been given to reach this state of peace and to share what's being absorbed. And so number of repetitions is a factor.
I just want
the strength of the repetition. Yeah, go for it.
Because you were talking about you get 2 or 3 million repetitions and then you get to this place of peace. But you're as you go along, even in the beginning, you're getting more and more peace. You're getting little incremental improvements in your peace of mind. So you don't have to wait till
Correct.
You don't have to do it
Correct.
2 million times to get benefit.
Correct. In fact, normally I would suggest when you take a mantra, when you do your research and play around with them and find the one for you, that you make a commitment to yourself for 40 days. 40 days is that magical number that helps us to get a habit, to develop a habit. And set up your repetition, your plan to repeat mantra from there. And in the morning is ideal, early morning practice, to repeat it out loud if you can, sitting at an altar if it's available, or some place that you see as sacred space. But it's okay if you do it in your car, then see your car as your temple for that morning. It's fine.
Yeah. Right before bed is good, because then you go into dreamland with your mantra running. And that
Absolutely.
helps
Perfect.
your nighttime.
Perfect. Beautiful practice. Setting a goal of 1 or 2 or 3 malas. Mala is 108 beads, so 108 repetitions. And our next video in this series is how to select and utilize a mala. So 3 malas, perhaps if you can. That's normally 20 to 30 minutes. Is ideal. Do that intentionally. You can do it out loud. You can whisper it. Mental repetition. And then mental repetition during the day, whenever you can fill it in. But in the beginning, you want that strength of relationship with the practice. So make it intentional. Set a time for yourself where you'll practice. Set a commitment to yourself. 40 days is good. Not forever, but 40 days you can achieve. Anyone can achieve it. And do that. And then continue to develop your relationship as you go from there. So out loud, yeah, in the beginning, mental, yes, as a bonus. Now, those of us who take the mantra, in Swami's case, I was extremely disgusted with myself. And I could not live with myself any longer. For 3 years, I had just wanted to kill myself. And some light had come, and the mantra practice and a couple of very significant realizations. And so I was given mantra, and I felt I did not have a choice other than to take on the practice of constant mental repetition from that moment. And I committed myself to it because I couldn't do it another moment the other way. And some of us may be there, some less, some it's fine. But the point is, the more we repeat it, the more intensity we have in the repetition, the more commitment to it, the
deeper the groove. The
deeper the groove, and the faster that deep groove comes. We'll all have our internal battles with it. We talked in the prior video, a friend may question this. People want to know what a mantra is. What are you doing? Like that. It's a private practice. It's personal practice. Better because we have enough struggle within ourselves with integrating any practice. We don't need to add to it. And so better to keep it as a personal practice, deal with the personal struggle. Doubt will arise. Well, how do we overcome doubt? How do we work with doubt? If we have reason to really believe a thing, then we continue and we see what happens. That's why we said 40 days is a good number to work with. At least commit yourself to an extended enough period of time you can see how it's working within your life. And maybe you'll have the blessing, just like the dear soul we shared in the last video. The first day that they took the practice on, they had a use for it, used it, and experienced a dramatic shift. And like that. So establish your baseline and then repeat it as much as is practical. And you'll find in the beginning times when it's not easy to repeat it or where it seems to prevent other uses of the mind that are required. So fine. Later on, it develops. And dear Anandamayi Ma, she shares this. She speaks of the practice and the mental repetition. She says, silent japa should be engaged in at all times. One must not waste breath uselessly. Whenever one has nothing special to do, one should silently practice japa in rhythm with one's breathing. In fact, this exercise should go on continually until doing japa has become as natural as breathing. And then she speaks of, finally, the mala of the pure mind, the highest mind, which comes, and you will find that you will wake up in the morning with the mantra as your companion. Mantra can also be offered, and you'll find an easy capacity to be a benefit to anyone in your life that is experiencing difficulty and who needs support. And that would seem to be all of us. Okay. So what shall we close with? How about Om Aim Shri Om Aim Saraswatiye Namaha. Okay? All right. Thank you. Bless you. Om Aim Saraswatiye Namaha. 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 Om Aim Saraswatiye Namaha.